Hello, I am Morgan and I'm going to be making potato and celeriac soup today. There's not really much that you need for this celeriac. We'll get into more about that later. I thought we had bigger potatoes than we do. So we'll need to use a bit more potatoes than necessary. The only thing I think we really need to go to the shops for: celeriac, creme fraiche, and then everything else you should be able to have already in your fridge or your pantry if you're a more chefy person. So let's get started, shall we? As always, you can find the further recipe with more detailed steps on our website at biteandbake.com. But for now I'm just gonna get into making it, and I will tell you a little bit more about the soup and the reason why we add the ingredients that we do as we go along. So come with me, we're gonna make a potato and celeriac soup, and maybe a little crunchy, bacony, hot honey, walnutty crumb to go on top. The celeriac, also known as the celery root in the UK, originated in the Mediterranean and Northern Europe. It's often thought to be healthier than potatoes, though it has the same nutrition values, such as the same starch content and the same fat content. So really it's just as good as eating a potato. You can roast it, or you can bake it, or you can make it into soups like we're doing here. So you're really looking to peel your celeriac just like you'd peel a turnip, cut the base off, and then you can trim it with your knife until you get a nice smooth or semi-smooth centre. Once you've finished cutting it, I put a wet paper towel over the top to make sure it doesn't start browning. As you can see here, I'm kind of just picking it up and trimming it the best I can and keeping all of the skins at the side. So I've peeled all these potatoes. You're left with these skins. You don't have to throw them away, you can if it's easier, but you can also make a really nice vegetable broth with all the skins. So, aside from the celeriac and the potatoes, here are the things that you'll need to make this soup very tasty indeed. I have onions. These didn't cost me anything, they're from my granny. Celery from a non-specific brand supermarket. I got the medium-sized cut ones, 75p, not bad at all. This is vegetable broth. It's just under a litre of vegetable broth. Might not need it all, might need some of it. This is stuff that I made a couple of weeks ago. If you can, make it. I'll probably put a recipe up on how to make it. You can just buy it at the shops. 450 millilitres, probably going to be about £2.50, depending on where you go. And neutral oils. This is avocado oil. So a neutral oil is one that doesn't have any flavours, like sesame oil or rapeseed oil. You're looking for vegetable oil, avocado oil, or olive oil. Soy sauce for a little bit of depth and flavour, a little bit of an umami without salting it too much. Every time I use garlic in this recipe, I'm going to be using chopped garlic from a jar, because garlic just sits in your fridge and goes off if you don't use it that much. So for ease and simplicity, chopped garlic. I'll tell you the measurements when we're using it. And creme fraiche. Literally going to use a spoonful. Get the smallest stuff possible if you're only going to use it once. And then your basic seasoning: salt, pepper, maybe a little bit of nutmeg if we are feeling spicy, but if not, then this is all we're going to use. And a tiny little onion, so I'm just going to use both of them, because who's ever had too much onion or something. When you're dicing up your onions, you're looking just to cut it down the centre, and then you can make little slats in it, and then cut it along the centre again to make a nice medium-sized dice. So you're looking for the dice on these onions to be no more than the size of your pinky fingernail. So you can watch what I'm doing here. You kind of just peel the outer layers, and then you set it down, and you just cut it down the centre and make little slats, and then that's how you get a nice fine dice. Then moving on to our celery, I like to crush it a little bit just before I slice it so that it's got all of the aromatics all ready to go. Top and tail it, and then slice it down the centre, as you'll see me do it just now. And then you're once again just looking to chop it into little rounds so that you can fry it off in the pan and let it sweat. So we have our celery and our onions. Ta-da! This is also if you have fresh garlic, you chop your garlic up in there as well. To the pot, we're going to add just a drizzle of our oil. And then we're going to wait for that to come up to the temperature where the oil can move about the pan like water. Once the oil's moving about the pan like water, we're going to take our celery and our onions and just put them in the pot. Tip please, it's to wet them down so they release all the flavour. Garlic. That's about 2 cloves. There it goes. Oh, that was really good. Pinch salt and pepper into our base. In the meantime, we can get to preparing our star of the show, the celeriac, and the potatoes for stewing away. So let's do that. For your celeriac, you're looking to cube it. So I like to cut it in half after I've already cut it in half, and then just make that into cubes. You're looking for the cubes to be no bigger than your thumb, because otherwise it won't cook thoroughly when you're boiling in the broth with the potatoes. And you have to make sure that it's no bigger than the potatoes that you're cubing either, but we'll get to that eventually. So you can see here I'm cutting it lengthwise, and then once that's done I'm going to cut it lengthwise again just to make sure that we're all in nice even cubes, and then I will chop them again if they're too big still. Cubes, kind of, the celeriac and the potato. This has been going for about 5 minutes. On the bottom of the pan you should see some browning, and that's all the good stuff. We'll be scraping that off the bottom later. We're then going to put about 1/4 of our vegetables into the pot on top of our base. And then following that with about a cup worth of our stock, as you can see me doing here. And I pour that in just to get all that beautiful browning off the bottom of the pan. So as soon as that base broth starts to get a little bit warm, stir it one more time. Make sure you've got all that lovely flavour of the bottom of the pan. And then we're going to go in with the rest of our broth, just making sure that we cover the celeriac and potatoes and all of that jazz thoroughly. Our stock and our vegetables have been simmering away a good couple of minutes, 15-20 maybe. We're basically waiting for the celeriac to be soft enough that if you stab it, it just slides right off the fork. I've just turned it off. We're going to wait for it to cool down a little bit. I stole some of the vegetable stock out of it and put it back into my container. Just in case when we're blending it gets a bit too thick, you just get rid of it. So once we blend it, we taste it for seasoning. So let's get to the blending, shall we? Really hot pot of soup. We're going to blend it. After we blend it, we're going to add our creme fraiche, some nutmeg, and we're going to see how we go. So excuse me while I go blend. Blended our soup, and I added literally a tablespoonful of creme fraiche. Just give it a little bit more tang, a little bit more lightness. Nutmeg. I then added in some nutmeg and a little bit of ginger just to kind of balance it out. About a handful of it as I'm doing there. Just chuck it in the soup, you'll be fine. So now that our soup's done, you can just stop here, have a lovely plate of soup. It's honestly one of my favourites. Or, if you can be a little bit chefy, you can make a honey glazed bacon crumb with walnuts. So we're going to make some hot honey, chili flakes, salt and pepper. Literally that easy. You just stick it all, mix it all in, and you're fine. To cook our bacon, we're adding it to a cold pan so that fat renders out and gives a lovely smoky flavour to the rest of the dish. To that, you're going to toast your walnuts when the bacon is cooked, and then add the hot honey in. Make sure it's nice and coated. You can put a few tablespoons of hot water in there just to loosen it up a bit if it starts to burn, but making sure we're not burning the honey. So this is our honey and bacon crumb. We're just going to put that on top of our soup when we serve it. So let's do exactly that. To serve the soup, I like to put 1 or 2 ladles into a bowl, and then you just add your crumb on top. You see how the soup coats the back of a ladle? Oh, it's going to be fabulous. So you just add a spoonful or 2 of your crumb onto the top, and that is you ready to serve and have a taste tester. That is us. That is our celeriac and potato soup with a bacon and walnut honey hot honey crumb. I don't eat bacon, so I need someone to come and try this. Well, that's good enough for me. So the recipe will be on the website, and I have more recipes also on the website, including teriyaki chicken, rice balls, all that lovely stuff. Thank you very much for joining me today.
It's good, do it.
It's good to do it. It's Owen Henig approved.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good day. Good kitchen, good food. Bye!